Hello everyone, welcome to the live stream. This is the one that was meant for right when I got back from Peru, but I got busy and then I got sick. Doing much better than last week, still got some congestion going on. I haven't gotten clearly enough to drink. I just realized I might have to go get something to drink later, but we'll get through at least the first hour here. Today we're talking about what can we learn from the wild, or what do I learn from the wild each time I go and visit. And I say visit, I guess. There's always so much to see, and things that, I guess it really hammers home when you see fish that you keep in an aquarium in their wild habitat. And it's nothing like what we experience in our home hobby. Like one of the real, I guess, takeaways is water clarity. Like this water, oh, by the way, if you checked our story, our YouTube story, you'll know that these guys were spawning yesterday, and there was a bunch of eggs, and they were eating it, and there was milt all around and all that. So it'd be cloudy again today. Awesome, right? Like I'll never have a stream where I don't have a cloudy tank. Made them too happy, then they spawn. Now it looks cloudy again. But this level of clarity is almost never seen in nature. And you'll see that when you see the Peru videos. Hopefully it'll start coming out next week. We've got a couple edited. We're trying to finish up the first one, still piecing footage and going, where's this gonna fit? But when you put that camera underwater, you'll see like, wow, there's a lot of stuff in the water. And some of it is so brown with tannins that you can't see more than maybe an inch or two. And that has a huge impact when you're talking about fish and seeing predators and just seeing stuff around and feeling safe and that kind of stuff. And, so I think we don't, I guess, account for that enough, especially if we're buying wild-caught fish. Wild-caught fish are going to be much more accustomed to not seeing giant beings like us if they're from the Amazon or other places with not clear water. So I think that adds a lot of stress, and that's why we get a lot of fish hiding, I think. Ettecially like in this scenario right here. This is a good example in the studio. I've got an overhead light that as as light comes down, it will make shadows. So you can kind of see my reflection in here. That will make shadows. And goldfish, they're a man-made fish. They don't really run. But definitely clown loaches were super spooked, especially the wild ones, for a long time in there, and very noticeable. So that's like the first thing you really notice is you can't see fish, and they can't see you. It makes it easier to catch them. Not that it's easy, but it makes it easier for sure. And yeah, so much so that, like, to really, I guess, demonstrate the tannins and that kind of stuff, like clothes get stained brown, like socks. We'd wear socks and they'd just be completely brown, like you were soaking them in tea or something like that. And same with the nets. We had big white nets. We bought and brought them brand new. After the first time of using them for like an hour, they're all brown. That's how strong the tannins are in there. And with all those tannins comes a lot of I guess, antifungal and antibacterial properties, which is good. But what isn't happening that I would have thought, and I guess I can pull it up. I got an email. Each day we were collecting, right? Each day we collected. We got water samples, and we took temperature, and we did all that kind of stuff, and we logged it. So where we were collecting fish, we would have microsiemens or TDS, we'd have pH, we'd have, I think, KH, and we'd have temperature. And I can pull up some of those stats. I think the lowest I saw in there was like 6.6, and that was in a super, like, very small creek that had killies and some apistos and that kind of stuff. But for the most part, yeah, like a place where I was catching, so you'll see this in the video. So if you're watching this now, know that half of the fish we were collecting was for like documentation purposes, because they're building a big portfolio on their website, like where stuff's being found, temperatures, pH, all that kind of stuff, right? So even if we were interested in it, if they hadn't caught it yet, we would bring it to get a picture and know that we could document. So like at this collecting location, which was near Santa Cruz, the temp was 28.2 Celsius, pH was 7.07, and 165 microsiemens, and we caught angels, riverless killifish, and cistrus plecos, galaxy cats, they're like a wood cat type, Oscars, pikes, chocolate cichlids, festivums, severums, etc. So all that was kind of in one location, and the water was crazy brown, and you could not see into it, and you guys will see that video, but pH is still above 7, which doesn't lend itself to what we would naturally be thinking. So, yeah, and there was a bunch of spots like that, you know. So in a second location on that day, we went and collected, and this was a more of a narrow stream, where the one I was talking about was a big wide kind of river, and it had Apistogrammoides, so kind of like the really small apistos, had some more Achilles, Apistogramma bitenniata, right? And some haplocatfish. Now, usually if you know Apistogramma bitenniata, it's known to be a very acidic water to spawn fish. We found it in 6.95 pH, so almost 7. And then the microsiemens was at 336. So there's more stuff in the water, which makes sense, right? We went from this big wide river, we came down to a very narrow stream, and all the minerals kind of collect up. So we have twice as much mineral content. Still not as much as maybe our hard tap waters here in America, but nevertheless, we're going to try and put all that stuff in the Peru footage so you guys can kind of see like, okay, that makes sense. pH down, microsiemens up. Okay, because in general, we like to think of lower pH watered fish also have less stuff in the water. And it's not, usually it's the opposite. Lower pH has more stuff in the water, more minerals and stuff, because it has to condense. So, you know, and by being in the wild, that's where you learn that of like, oh, that's exactly the opposite I would have thought right now. So, yeah, another place, 7.05 pH, we got angels, farlawallas, like Pictus catfish, festivums, giant ottos, pink-tailed chelseas, very similar water conditions. So even though we classified this one as white water, it just wasn't black water. You couldn't see into it, but it was like a milk tea type of, I guess, consistency, if you will. I don't know how to explain that otherwise, but this is a Mr. Beast shirt. That's correct. I fell in love with Mr. Beast lately. I enjoy his videos, giving stuff away. It's fun to watch. What we also saw, tons and tons of gases. So we're deathly afraid of a little bit of gas building up in our substrate and getting loose in our aquarium. And we have a fixed system, so it's not unjustified to be worried about that. But when, let's say you're walking through the water and there's just layers of detritus breaking down, and there's basically as many bubbles as like a jacuzzi, right? It's just boiling with bubbles coming up, and you know there's fish right around you because you're catching them, right? And they're right around your legs and everything. And I'm going to call it the wives' tale of the internet says, like, a bubble of gas can come up and it will kill the fish around it. I feel like if that was true, I'd be seeing lots of dead fish either flow down river or come up around me, and I've never seen that. And I've been to multiple places. We were on the actual Amazon. We went into tributaries. We went to an entirely different part last year. Same thing. Lots and lots and lots of gas buildup. And for the most part, I couldn't, as a hobbyist, discern any distress out of fish at all from that. So I think we put an overemphasis on the actual gas. Now, in our aquarium, lots of gas buildup and that kind of stuff does make us think that maybe we're neglecting our aquarium. So that could be a warranted, like, ooh, you know, type of moment. But I don't think we should be so afraid of the gas, but more of how do we get to that point? That's a little more scary. So Where was I at? Asked Russell. We were in Peru, and we also toured Iquitos a bit. So Iquitos, like the city. We were also in Lima, the city. But then we were out on the Amazon River, like the main Amazon River, and we also went up the Nene River, and kind of went our way around a bit. So it wasn't always on the giant river, because the giant river being super duper deep and super duper miles wide made it really hard to catch fish, because we didn't have like giant 40-foot deep nets to like troll with a boat. We had hand nets, and we had like a seine. Right, so you could like a net that might be 4 feet tall and like 25 feet long, and you have multiple people but you had to be able to touch down. It couldn't be more than 4 feet, otherwise the fish would just swim underneath. So those are the places we had to go. We'd have to go towards the shore to catch fish. We'd have to go into maybe creeks and little waterways to use our hand nets, and then also like Randy and some of the other crew and some of the other attendees were using rod and reel. And they were able to catch things like piranha and that kind of stuff in the deeper parts of the water. So, we were using different modes. And at one point, we didn't own it. Some locals did. We went deep into the kind of the jungle there and found a village. And there was some really cool fish, which you guys will see the footage of. And the only way to catch them, we tried and tried and tried with all of our nets. The local could catch them with a cast net. So, kind of cool to see a different technique being used. And he was very good at it, and makes you wish you were good at something like that. Makes me wish, anyway. All right. Oh, I guess there might be some questions going on. FishTube says, for Siemens, Corey means the electrical conductivity of the water, which tells the amount of salt in the water, or salts. It can be, yes. Micro Siemens are used basically everywhere, but I think the UK and America. So basically, like if you use, for the most part, and this is my understanding, it's not necessarily fact, if you use the metric system, you're probably using micro Siemens. If you don't use the metric system, you're probably using total dissolved solids. So very similar, and there's a little chart to convert them, but for the most part, we're just measuring things. Like we don't necessarily need to know what does 122 micro Siemens mean. We just need to know that this big body of water had less than this little one that was almost dried up. Like oh yeah, I can quantify that. All right. So the other thing we would see routinely is massive amounts of plants, whether they were floating plants, whether they were emergent plants that were on the shores growing in, whether they were giant trees. Something I didn't realize till I was there is the amount of water fluctuation that's going on every year. And you'll see it in the video. I don't think it's going to come out that clear though, because it was hard for me to see, but you might be looking 60 feet up into a tree and you'd be like, oh yeah, these trees are brown. And then wait a second, it's white after that. That's the water line. So you might be standing down looking 60 feet up into a tree, and then you have this like epiphany of, wait a second, that's where the water level is during the rainy season. That's insane. It's taller than the boat, taller than everything. Like it'd be so flooded. And so with that much fluctuation, these fish are living with that crazy water. They're living with, sometimes the plains, I guess that'll be explained in the video, but we might be walking across the jungle, but half the year, that's just giant floodplains. Like fish would just swim back and forth, and then half the year they're going down to these very small reduced rivers or pools. A lot of times the rivers will flow, but then they get so low they get cut off. And we'll see some of that where fish get cut off all the time. Lots and lots of fish die in the Amazon every year, not from any human interaction, just like water went away, fish didn't make it type of deal. And those fish also aren't good to collect, because if it gets too small, there's not enough oxygen. So you're collecting an oxygen deprived fish, and then it's just not going to do well in shipping and getting it back to a boat and all that. So you want something that's still flowing. The fish don't look like they're in distress. And yeah, but you do realize that nature's not messing around out there. There was, I forgot some of the cool footage is going to be, there's all these spiky palms at some of the places we're collecting. And it's like, imagine a baseball bat with nails sticking out of it. That's what these things are. And apparently I just happen to be a magnet for them. and it's very common to like, you step down, your knee goes all the way down into mud, and naturally your hand is like, or your response is like, put a hand down and stabilize yourself. Well, many times a lot of us will come back up with, you know, like these pine or these needles sticking out of our hand. We have to pull them out, and then at some extreme times you'd fall and you put your hand against a tree. Same thing would happen. Randy was getting it pretty bad. He would step out into the river and it would go through his shoe at one point. So, you know, there's a lot of kind of crazy things going on there. Luckily, that was only like a couple of the days. And then we got to some other terrain that didn't have all those palms. But those palms, you know, one, they would fall in. There's lots of trees that would fall in. But then these trees would also just have super wet roots. And the only clear water we ever saw, which I think will make for the best video, was we found a freshwater spring. And that water was clear. And I spent a lot of time filming the tree roots and everything that you could see like right at the water line, so that people could A, see what it's really like, B, recreate biotopes if they wanted to. And I think I learned the most there. And then when we started reviewing some of the footage, we saw fish were spawning in the root system there and some other cool stuff. So unfortunately, that was the only spot that was clear to film, and it was a sunny day. It worked out. Everything else, no underwater footage, because I could recreate the footage by just sticking a camera in coffee, and you'd be like, I didn't see anything. Like, yeah, we were at the Amazon. You just didn't know it. So, we got some new members. Woo. Gunnar Stroud, welcome. And then we got a super chat from, we have D. Kirkbride, who became a member. A super chat from Ben High. And another super chat from John Gonzalez. How many times did you fall down on camera? At least 4. Dean was really good at filming me falling down. I think I got everyone else falling down as well. But the videos are always shot from a couple perspectives. So there'd be days where all I'm going to do for the most part is film. And then there'd be days where Dean would film and I'd be the one in the water. Because it's too hard to try and like, you can never, there's all these one-time moments. And there's a really good one that my wife keeps laughing about so much she cries that it's that funny. But there's all these like one-time moments that you can't be like, oh, go ahead and redo that. Like, let me film that now. So you pretty much always have to have someone with the camera on doing a thing, and then someone doing the stuff. And then poor Jimmy, I think Jimmy's literally watching hundreds of hours of footage, because I had a GoPro on my hat going like 24/7. I had waterproof phones that I was filming with. We had other cameras kind of set up doing some stuff, and more people wearing cameras, and we're collating it all to go, what's the best shots we got, and, you know, trying to figure it out, and it's just a lot. So hopefully we'll be able to produce like 4 or 5 kind of good videos for you guys. We hope. So, wow, members are rolling in. Do I have a dream catch? What did I want to find? I really wanted to catch, I don't know. I mean, it was really hard not to take home like baby red-tailed catfish, baby shovel nose. So there was quite a few things that had I not switched this to goldfish, it might have been a monster catfish type of tank. But, you know, I can always do this for a few years, then go back and catch some stuff. I don't think I had anything on the like, that's super dope, wish I can find it. I was on the lookout for things that I had never seen before. And that's actually what I brought home. I actually brought some fish home, and we didn't catch them. I actually found them at a wholesaler, and the wholesaler, or not a wholesaler, the exporter had only ever gotten them in once before. They're undescribed species of catfish. They're super cool. They're in my fish room right now. I'm hoping I can spawn them. But that's what I go for. Like, show me something the hobby doesn't know yet, because there is just infinite stuff out there. And yeah, the only thing I didn't catch that I really wanted to catch in a net, like with a dip net, was a piranha. I saw a dead piranha. We caught some on fishing poles and that kind of stuff. We ate piranha, but I really wanted that quintessential like GoPro shot. Yeah, I got it type of thing, and that never happened, which gives me a reason to go back, right? Like, if you knock all the bucket list off, then, you know. Well, thank you guys so much. That's an insane amount of new members. We have Jonathan, Angela, and Keith. Thank you. And a super chat from Devlin. What happened to those L397 F1s you and Jimmy brought back from Cataclysm 2017? I think it was 2018, but it might have been in 2017. They are at Dean's house. Yeah, so they're starting to cave up and that kind of stuff. We're hoping for spawning activity at any point, but they're in a 75-gallon, living the life at Dean's. All right, so what else did I see? A lot more fish than you'd expect had missing fins and wounds and that kind of stuff. Nothing ever looked infected, but even on the fish that I brought back that we caught, you know, things were getting nibbled on for sure. And what I thought was interesting is with all these wounds and this stuff going on, the fish actually look pretty healthy. So they're in an environment that's hostile, right? But they don't really look worse for the wear. It kind of looks like an everyday thing of just like, of course, you know, piranha bit my dorsal fin off. Why not? That's what happens. And yeah, surprising to see all that. And so a lot of it was, you'd have to question yourself, like, do I want to keep this specimen? Like, it might get worse in holding. I'll just put some salt in there, some antibiotics, and stuff like that. Because the water from the was so tan, I think that just fights it off, honestly. Because I never once saw a fish that had like fungus on it or a really bad looking wound. Everything just looked like, oh yeah, look at that. But it looked clean and healthy. So that was a weird observation, I think, is that like a lot of tannins, you know, make for some healing, I guess. The other thing I would say is there were a lot of harsh conditions, and you could tell there'd be some very big fish in some pretty small channels of water, and there were ponds that were drying up and that kind of stuff, and you knew they weren't going to live. And we would ask Devin, the guy that kind of that leads this expedition, like, well, what was it like, you know, were you here this summer? And he might be like, oh yeah, I was here 3 weeks ago. And then he'd be like, the water was up to your chest. And then, like, we'd be there now, and the water's this. Like, it evaporates so fast. And even the week before, there'd be this, like, big channel where he's like, okay, we took this giant boat. And I know you don't have reference of boat size yet, but it's a double-decker sized boat. Sleeps, like, 10 different cabin rooms and that kind of stuff. So, big boat, right? He's like, last week, we took the boat up and down that. And then this week, you're going, but that's like a tiny little stream. And that's how much water would have moved out by then. So it was crazy to see that. And then knowing that fish would just die, but there's just so many fish around, you know, that it's not that it didn't matter. It's that nature had already figured out this is how it works. And so any scraps we'd have on the boat, like, so let's say when we ate the piranha or something like that, and you eat all the meat you can, there'd be a little bit left, right? Like the tail and fins and maybe some of the skin. You'd throw that back into the water, and you would just see this massive amount of fish just like eating it really fast. And yeah, there'd be piranhas and silver dollars and catfish and all these things, but you know, you'd think that we could catch them a lot easier because there's so many, but they were smart. They'd run from us for the most part. Their lateral line would detect our movements. Like, oh, big predator fish, right? But when there wasn't that going on, you felt like you could have walked across the water with so many fish. Crazy. So, welcome, Joe Weintraub. Thank you. I want to see how far... I'm going to check in real quick and see if I can find how far away we are from getting our next emoji. I've got a couple I want Jimmy to make, but he was not at home. He was having some dinner, so I couldn't force them in today, but got another 16 to go. 16 memberships, we get another emoji spot. So yeah, help me think of more good emojis too. That's what I want to do. But the other thing was the temperatures were not quite what I thought. So for the most part, everywhere we went was warm if you will. Like the water would feel like, oh, okay, it's like an aquarium or a little warmer. But then there'd be spots where you're like, that water is actually hot, like bath water. And so I remember one time we were trying to collect Amazon puffers, right? And close, like maybe this deep of water, the temperature was over 92 degrees. But then you go to like this much water, and the temp would be like 80 degrees. So like a 12-degree difference. And in this video, which I don't know if we'll use it, but I walked way out there to demonstrate kind of the floodplain. So like it might be like you walk a football field out, and it only gets like 2 more feet deep. You know, because for the most part, it's kind of a level, I don't want to call it a playing field, but like a floodplain, I guess. I don't know how else to explain it. And so you get these very gradual slopes, and the water would get faster, and that's where it would cool down. But we could essentially see fish swim between 92 and like 78 degrees like it was nothing. There was no hindrance there at all. And you know, so right now you guys wouldn't know it, but there's actually a plecostomus in there that I brought back in the 800 gallon. And I caught it in water that it was at that like 92, or not 92, it was at 85 degree water. You know, so our common plecostomus, and that's what it is, a common type, you know, in the wild, at least where we were catching that specific one, was at 85 degrees. So, you know, obviously with more water it would be a little bit cooler and different times of the year and that kind of stuff. But, you know, for our internet culture, like 78 degrees all the time is just not how nature rolls. So it's just completely different. So, yeah. Ooh, beard product fund. That's right. That's right. Ooh. Did you guys see my Murphy pin? Handed those out at the Coast Club. We're going to hand some out at some of our in-person events coming up, so you might want to join us at Aquashella, which is in like 3 weeks, plus or minus a few days, and then in New Jersey at the Aquatic Experience. So, yeah, these pins are not for purchase. Got to wear my hat like that to show off the Murphy. Yeah. All right. So the pH was also higher than, I wrote down we thought. Maybe everyone else knew it was going to be higher, but in my mind, for years and years and years, working at a pet store and just kind of the online culture, you kind of hear about apistos and angels and all that. Like, well, they come from acidic waters, lower pH. But time and time again, most often, I would say 8 out of 10 collecting points, pH would be above 7. When it wasn't, the lowest, I looked at all the collection points we went to, the lowest we found was 6.6. And so, you know, I really thought we'd be seeing some around here like in the 5s and that kind of stuff, but it was not the case at all. Even those ones that you're like that freshwater spring that let in, like that, I would have put some serious money that one would have been like in the 5s for sure. It looked super acidic, like wow. But it just wasn't. So, you know, in my own head, I've always hated to have, not hated. I've always seen fish start to not thrive under 7.0 pH. And not every single fish, but for the most part in fish keeping, below 7 is when I start seeing the average person have trouble and even us have some trouble. And it makes a little more sense now, just like, because, you know, obviously African's going to be higher. There's a lot of other fish from other parts in the world, but the Amazon is kind of considered like, oh, that's going to be the low pH region. And from at least the places I've been so far, which is only 2 different water kind of systems and areas, it's held consistent of like, wow, that's higher than I thought. Now, it could be I go to Brazil or, you know, Colombia or something, and it's like, oh, it turns out everything's, you know, acid. And like, wow, didn't know. But from where I've been so far, and, you know, this is angelfish and autocinclus and Oscars and you know, catfish we're used to, all these aquarium fish we're keeping, they're all in the pH that I would have not thought. So, yeah, it's interesting. All right, William Robinson became a new member. Thank you. It's one more towards. I wonder if I can refresh. Does it refresh real time? Survey says yes. We need. Oh, wow! It updated. How did this work? I hit that refresh button, and then didn't I say we needed like 14 or something? We only need 8 now. 8 more gets us the emoji. So I don't think that thing updated right or something. Maybe it's not real time. I don't know. But 8 more gets us another emoji. And then the last thing that I can think of right off the top of my head, there's a million things to, when I rewatched one of the videos to proof it, we've got some more things to change. There was an insane amount of bugs. Now, I talked about that last year, mostly bugs on us. But I really focused in on the amount of bugs in the water this time, though, because I kept pulling out just tons of beetles and spiders, and like there's this crazy alien-looking bug that Dean and I'm pretty sure were abducted by for a while. Like that thing was crazy. And what I was thinking about this time while I was there is all these insane amounts of bugs I'm catching with a net. Those are getting eaten by fish, by peacock bass, by just big catfish, all that stuff. They just get there's lots of wolffish. Like there are definitely fish that can be eating all these bugs, and that's something that we're missing from our aquarium. That opportunistic feed, right? Like in our aquarium, we're either putting feeder fish and they get eaten, we're putting pellets in, we're putting frozen in, but there's not like just some spiders waiting over here on a branch for this goldfish to come and just nom, right? That doesn't really exist. Lots of ants, there's just lots of stuff falling in there all the time, and we'd have to get them out of the buckets, and there were just bugs everywhere. And I think that's a protein source we're coming on to now. Like we're using a lot more soldier fly larvae and foods and that kind of stuff, but I feel like maybe in the Amazon it makes up more food than I would have thought, because you could definitely see the fish jumping and grabbing bugs and that kind of stuff, but that pales into comparison to how many bugs were actually in the water. That was something that I just was not as ready for. And maybe it was just the other area didn't have as many bugs, I don't know, but there was a lot of water type bugs, and not even just like those water scorpions and stuff, but like actual just like tons of little beetles that would bite you. I remember getting bit like in my back, one went up my shirt, and that doesn't feel too good, but yeah, there was a lot. So $2 super chat from Philip given. Well, thank you. I want to see if there's any little message. Says, thank you to Corey and the Aquarium Co-op crew. I've been out of the hobby for 12 years, and I've just gotten back in after converting my turtle tank back into a rainbow tank. Well, rock on. I do love turtles, so no hate there, but, welcome back. All right. Someone's asking where I'm talking. Yes, I'll be... So, Kira's asking, am I going to be at the Aquatic Experience for the whole event? Almost the whole event. And what I mean by that is I'm there from open to close. Every day it's open to the public. But there is a talk I'll be giving to retailers. What does that mean? And technically I was told it will be open to the public as well. But they want me, I have to build this talk still, but they want me to give a talk about social media. And the talk I wanted to give was how to actually reach your target customer. So, whoa. I'm dropping pieces. I'm fiddling with a GoPro mount. But the takeaway will be an interactive format like this live stream and that kind of stuff. Because right now, social media to businesses means put up an ad on Facebook, put up an ad on Instagram, and just be like, buy my thing is the greatest. Like, I don't know about you guys, because maybe we run in different circles, but how many times in the last 2 weeks have you gotten hit up by, what is it, like the carbon cube, simply put in water will fix every problem with a fish ever? Like, I want to order that thing just to disprove it, because it just conceptually can't work like that. But, they have been promoting the crap out of that on me, and we're getting emails about it, like, does this thing work? And so they're just like, blanketing the entire internet with these ads on Facebook and stuff. And yes, that is social media, but I think that's advertising. That's not social media. Social media, when we break that down, is actually like having a conversation using an online media, which I don't think Instagram's doing. Facebook is doing it, but we all fight on Facebook. On YouTube, in the live streams, we get that, like that actual back and forth, but on the videos, we don't. So I think there's some meaningful ways that my goal is to help your local fish store actually convey what's going on with their business so that you want to support them. You know when they're getting new fish, they're doing all these things, and they actually see like, oh, I put in effort and then we sold stuff. I'll do more of that. I'll keep educating my customer and things will be good, as opposed to we tried doing that, we got nothing back, we stopped wasting time, instead we just clean our tanks. So it's going to be, you know, talking a lot about that to, if I do my job right, I'll make, let's say, local stores a little bit more social media savvy, and that'll trickle down to you guys are now getting more information and building a better rapport with your local store, which I think that's a good thing for everyone. All right. So that's the list that I have. If you guys have questions about Peru or things about nature, I will definitely love to chime in on that topic. But otherwise, I'm going to start grabbing some comments and super chats and stuff like that, and we'll go. Gotta clear my nose. My nose is not cooperating now. Big D Smoke says, are there some other foods I can feed a Fahaka Puffer? I feed him mealworms, bloodworms, frozen brine, cocktail shrimp soaked in Vitachem, and of course snails. He doesn't like any form of krill. Yes, so some things you could try right off the bat. Those cocktail shrimp you're feeding, you can butterfly them, so cut them along the back. You could try putting in pellets. That's one way you could get some pellets into his diet. You can go to the grocery store and buy like mussels. You could be doing clams. Sometimes, like Lamont, one of my old employees, would feed his would eat some crickets. And he would actually dust them in calcium like he would for the reptiles too. I'm trying to think of what else. There's so many things that you can feed. It's mostly what is it that you can get a hold of, like crayfish. Some of the like the southern states and that kind of stuff. I always hear the tale. We don't get that here in Washington, but apparently you can buy like a giant bag of crayfish for like $30, and they're already frozen, and you can just huck them in there. Like that sounds awesome. Fiddler crabs you could buy. There's anything with like a shell really it's a good idea. And even if you get something that like Hank, my first Maboo Puffer, I tried king crab legs. Didn't like it, but still try it. You got to figure out what they like and what they will eat. All right. Can I come to Cincinnati? I am not saying I will or won't go anywhere at this point, but Cincinnati's not that far away from Jimmy, so it's within the wheelhouse. I've got some rescue endlers that bully my Corridoras. The Corridoras seem to hold their own. If I add more fancy males, how fast will the genes change? Well, the genes will start changing for every generation, but you're probably going to visually see the changes 2 generations in. So if you have adults, they have fry. The fry, for the most part, will look like the adult, or they'll carry the adult genes and not really probably bring in too much of the man-made fancy guppy form. But then, like their babies, you'll start presenting a lot more bigger tails and that kind of stuff. And I'm assuming that's what you want to do, is get the tails bigger and that kind of stuff. It'll slow those fish down, allow the Corridoras to get out of the way if they want to, and that kind of stuff. But without knowing the genetics of what you're starting with and what you're bringing in and what you're trying to get to present. And by present, I mean if you just take like a wild guppy and a wild endler and you want a blue Moscow guppy, like then we're talking 10, 12 years of work, But if it's like, oh, I want to take an endler, like a panda guppy, and a Moscow, and I kind of want to make a smaller version of a Moscow, like, okay, maybe 4 or 5 generations, not nearly as bad. But it depends on where you're going and where you're starting from. How am I handling the new tariffs? As well as we can, really. I mean, flu ball prices went up. They couldn't bear the price anymore. I have huge tariff bills that we'll be paying this week from cargo containers that landed last week. In theory, prices are going up again. And really, kind of the way it works, unfortunately, is it doesn't really change our price. And what I mean by that is, like let's say this sponge filter, right? which we did import. So we have sponge filters, right? So we're going to use completely fake numbers, but let's say we pay $5 for this, and then a tariff of 25%. Let's do easier math. $4 for this. Tariff of 25% happens. So we pay $4 to the company in China to make it for us. And then when it lands in the country, we paid money to get it over. That's still the same price. And then when it lands here, then we pay a $1 tariff per sponge filter. So it ends up being like a lot of money when it lands, right? So as a business, what typically happens is you just pass that along to the customer, unfortunately. So one of the things we were able to do, and this is, it's not, we didn't pass it along to the customer on this one because, so I think we retail this one at $5 or $4, right? Because we went to China and had them made, our buy price went down. So even though we're paying the tariff, it's still cheaper than what we used to buy them for when we bought them from another company. So you still pay the same price. But what you are going to notice is things like, let's say an AquaTop sponge filter. If that one was $4 now, and let's say it was $4 and it was sold for $8, what's going to happen is, oh, now it's $5 to buy it, and the retail will be $10 to people. So that's why we went and had our own made. We saw this when we started learning about tariffs and that kind of stuff is coming down the pipeline, and we're looking at it going, we're paying X for a sponge. It's already pretty expensive. If it gets 25 or now even 30% more expensive, that's really going to make it hard to sell, and we love them. So what can we do to offset that cost? And what we found was if we cut out some of the middlemen, so typically if you rewind 2 years ago, when Aquarium Co-op would sell a sponge, there was two people between us and the manufacturer. There'd be a manufacturer, then there'd be a company. Let's say it's AquaTop, right? AquaTop buys it from the manufacturer, brings it into the United States. Then they mark it up. Then they sell it to a wholesaler, right? And then I buy it from a wholesaler. Well, the wholesaler also marks it up. So markup, I get a hold of it. Now I have to make a profit. Otherwise, no point doing work to lose money, right? So then that's how you get it. By cutting out the people in between, we've been able to absorb that tariff and keep the prices essentially the same. But then there's other products where we don't, right? So like Fluval, manufacturer, Fluval, us. Fluval held back on the tariff as long as they could. Then they're like, we can't, we're losing money. They now pass that along to us, and we look at it and we go, well, we can't just be losing money, so we had to raise the price. Still a great light, but it just got more expensive. So that's just unfortunately how it has to go for now. Like we don't control that production line or anything, so there's nothing we can do to really alleviate that. And we don't control the pricing, so we're selling it at the minimum price we're allowed to sell it at. So there's nothing else we can do there for you guys, unfortunately. So we can only play in the space we're allowed to play in. But Genevieve says, those sponge filters are everything! Yes. So I did bring the new items. So the new items we brought in this round would be these sponges. Let me, build some for you guys. We brought in 4 sizes. Long term, they will replace all the other sponge filters we've ever sold. And again, now you kind of understand the reason why. Like, oh, so we don't have to raise the price. I also got to make them exactly how I wanted them, which is super cool. I'll explain, what I liked about it or what I wanted about it. Try to show you all the sizes here, if I can do my job. And the big one. All right. So we've got, this is the biggest one, and this is kind of, I think I've got it rated for 40 gallons and up, right? Biggest. This is my favorite size here. I think this is like the Corey size. Like I feel like this is going to be super dope for 20s and 29s and like 3 of these in a 55 or 2 of these in a 55. Like this is the size that my hand fits, and it's going to clean very easy. This one, my hand fits it also, but you can see I can't wrap my whole hand around it. So it's going to be a lot more, like you're going to have to spin it as you clean it. So it's just not my, like, it's good, but I really like this size. I guess, I guess I should number these things, like the number 3. And then we've got, like, this one's the small, right? So this is going to be like, I need to tuck it into a corner, an aquascape. I wouldn't run much more than a 10-gallon with this. And then we get down to this small one. Now this one's a weird one, and I'll explain how this one came to be. So this is small, this is nano. And some of you might be like, wait a second, that thing like is kind of like the same thing. Kind of, but narrower tube. So this tube is bigger than this one. What we wanted to do, we actually made one half as big. The original one we made was half as big. The problem was you couldn't put an air stone in it. And that's one of the things I love is we've made them all so that you can attach a piece of airline tubing and an air stone and get really nice flow, and there's nothing in the center here, right? So we wanted to I love that feature, and so I wanted to make sure all of them could have that. Well, the bottom one, or the mini or the nano that we made, couldn't. And in fact, so manufacturing process, all of these parts require different molds because, look, different base size, right? Way different, whereas like, this one's different also, but I think these two share. Yeah, these two share, right? So same base on those two. These two are different. So you end up paying all these different mold sizes. And so the nano, much smaller base, that's good. And then there's a hack here that we built in. So taking the top off there. The hack is that we had 2 miniature ones made. So if you really want a small one, you could take one of these off, cut this sponge in half, and make a little shorty, but you won't be able to fit an air stone in there. So if you had like, if you're a killifish dude and you've got like little shoe containers, you can really, make this quite a small one. And it was going to be the same pricing. So that's why we were able to put this extra piece in there. Put it back together. So the other thing that we really wanted, well, I say we, it's me. I've been playing with these things for too long. I wanted green plastic because I've had black, I've had gray, and the gray shows off, like algae and that kind of stuff. The green will hide the green algae, I think. So that's why I went with green, plus aquarium co-op green, like we kind of do that green thing already. And in planted tanks, I thought it would hide well in a planted tank. You've got a bunch of green plants around it, kind of blends in. And then the sponge, we had it made in black because it's going to pull a bunch of fish poop, and fish poop is typically brown. That brown's really going to show against green. So we thought, well, it hides pretty well in black. And then we went with a coarse foam. So I like a coarse foam because it doesn't get clogged up. It doesn't get super fine particles out, but you can go very long times without clogging. And I find it has a better surface area for shrimp to kind of get in and actually preen it and clean it. And I guess another thing is, if you really want fine foam sponges, Aquatop makes them, Hikari makes them, that kind of stuff, but like almost no one's making coarse sponges. The other big reason is a coarse sponge sinks right away. If you bought those fine filtered sponges, you got to wring them and get the air out underwater, and then tomorrow you come back and it floated back up and you get more water out. These sink right away the first time every time. We oversized the bases, made them extra heavy, and it doesn't trap as much air in here, and we get nicer flow through it. So, there should be one more trick, I believe. Let me see if I can show that on camera, if I have to go get matching thingies. There we go. The other thing we want to do is make them stackable, right? So you can imagine if you had two the same size, they would stack just fine. You can stack them with different sizes. The only one that won't stack with all these bigger ones is this nano, because remember we had to make the special pieces, right? I actually haven't tried that. Let me make sure that's actually a true statement before I say that can't be done. I'm just assuming it can't be done. Let me see. Because maybe even that, but yeah, it's too small. I thought so because we had to run the different mold, but I said, you know what? I hadn't physically tried it yet. Maybe it's closer than I think. But yeah, so you can stack, you know. We'll stack another one on here. And there you go. Like now I've got the 3 fur. Like not that you'd build it this way, but it just shows, you know, the flexibility of what you could build if you were looking to do something like that. And it allows you a modular way of filtration. So if you wanted, you could like, oh, I'm just starting with the 1. Like, oh man, these goldfish got huge. Add another block on there. What I really like about it, this is just me, you can have, you know, if you had this thing going on, let me pull this off here. If you had this going on in your aquarium and you set up a new aquarium, or you have like a quarantine tank that sits dry, you can, you know, just take this off, either take the sponge off or take off the whole unit and pop it into the other tank. So yeah, you can just run 2 sponges as well, but not everyone has extra air pumps, you know, or wants that many outlets at the air pump or at the aquarium. So yeah, but these are for sale. They're going quick. There was a snafu. Basically, what happened was they miscalculated the space these took, and they shipped them to a cargo container. And once they got there, what happened was they were way different sized. So it said like this should take up half a cargo container, and instead it took up like an entire cargo container. And so we only got half. Or like, yeah, I think we got half of what we bought, right? But they just put boxes on the truck, so to speak. So we got like 1 billion of the nanos and only like 500 of these really large ones. So we're gonna sell to them first, but the next cargo container lands in a couple of weeks, and so then we'll have a ton. But that first shipment, it's like we've got every size in excess except for the largest one, which I think. Largest is the most popular because that's what people love, even though I am all about this number 2 or number 3, however you want to call it. This size, I like this one a lot. So, all right, let me chime in with the chat and clean up this desk a little bit here. I've been neglecting you guys. All right. The airline connection at the bottom. Wait. Love the airline connection in the bottom. Yes, so yeah, it took us a long time, and the manufacturer even told us sponge filters can't work the way we've had them designed. And it's like, just no one else is wanting to do that. That's the only difference. Like, I get it, everyone does a thing, we want to do a different thing. It's like, we tested it, we like it, like, don't worry, like, you know, we tested it with the Zist Never Clog Air Stones, and they work really well. All right, let's see what the general chat's saying real quick here. My new large sponge filters for you guys are working out perfect. Good, 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 good. Stay active at the gym, my dude. I went to the gym today. First day back from being ultra sick. I had to take some breaks and still lung capacities a little bit, but you know, I made it through the workout. Didn't want to be there, but I was there, so. The old sponge filters can stack as well on the new ones. I haven't tried that, but it might be true. Like Aquatops and Hikaris, they might, but I haven't tried it. So I don't want to like say that's a true thing, have someone order it, and then go, you said, like, no, I haven't tried it. So I've got other style at the warehouse right now, so I could try it. I just haven't yet. So that's a good point. Can't make a filter snowman? That's right. I thought of everything. No, I for sure, I know that in like a year, I will think of something I want this to do. The great thing is, because we are in charge of it, I can have them fix it. And I say fix it, like I can have them make what I want it to do next, right? That's what I like about this. You know, one of the things we will be doing is like, we'll be updating all the packaging. Right now it comes in white boxes. And this was because we needed to get the boxes printed and all that. And the reality is, you guys either got white boxes or you waited 3 more months to get sponge filters. And people were chomping at the bit. And because a different company has to print all the boxes, we have to proof them, give them the go-ahead, they print them all, then they're going to ship an insane amount of boxes to the manufacturer, then the manufacturer is finally going to do the run, then they'll put them in here. So we said, you know what? You have white boxes sitting around? Great, let's do white boxes, and you can print, you know, our barcode on them. Perfect. And then the next run after this, we'll do, so that way we don't delay production. So then we have the aquarium co-op tubing. This is a fail for us. So let me explain that. So naturally, we like black tubing. We like it to be very pliable. Great, great, great. We like it to be good priced well. Got that. We even said, you know what? Our competitors offer 20 feet. Let's offer 25 feet, right? Everything looked good in the samples and everything. And then we get it. And the problem is, let me see if I can show you on camera. It's not a huge problem. Right here. Stuff like this. This right here, let me see if I can focus in on it. Right here. You see how it's like kinked? Yeah, you see that kinked part right there? That's not up to our standards. Like I don't want kinked tubing. So you can see they like, when they do it, they usually have a thing where they wind it around, it'll count the meters of the feet. Well, as they did it, the roll would be spinning a little bit, and it would spin this, and if you spin it while you roll it, it's going to make a kink in it like that. And so I don't know if it was the new guy on the job, the way the roll was set up or what. So we have a kink in our tubing. Probably 6 out of 10 have that kink. And so I guess I should fully show you. Like in this batch of 25 feet, there is one kink that happened. We just know like we can make this perfect. And so we discounted all of the tubing that we brought in. It's half off. So even though you're getting 25 feet instead of 20, and you're going to have one kink. And by the way, the kink doesn't stop air from going through it or anything like that. It's just, I'm super disappointed because we're putting the Aquarium Co-op name on this. And tubing, I feel like this is one of those easy things, right? Like, and I don't want you guys to be like, oh man, it came and it had a kink in it and blah, blah, blah. Like, I'd rather just sell it cheap and we'll find out how we can get them to fix it perfectly, or we'll find another manufacturer, something. Like we did all the artwork, you know, hashtag Aquarium Coop. And, you know, we got Murphy on there and everything. So you can almost see like, wait a second, that's Murphy and then Murphy pin. We've been working on this for a while. But, you know, right now you can, on our website, you're getting 25 feet of black tubing for $1.99. It's brand new, except for some kinks. So there's that. A new product offering right here. We have brought in Apistogramma caves. How much are we selling these for? All I know is we brought them in because we're like, hey, they're gonna be all right. Let me pull that up. By the way, those of you that have gotten sponge filters and that kind of stuff, please go and leave an honest review. Whether you love it, whether you hate it, all these newer items, they don't have reviews yet. So a lot of people will be looking at it and going, well, you know, Corey's a guy here to make money, but what do other people think, right? So it helps a lot with whether you like it or not. Yeah, we get to sell these at $4.99. Boom. Perfect. Well, I want to hold them a little bit long because people always ask, how big are they really? They're small enough for an apisto to live inside. So just a little item we brought in. You know, we're expanding, not expanding, but trying to flesh out some of the caves and that kind of stuff that, you know, there's a lot of middlemen in some of this stuff. We're like, this stuff's kind of expensive, you know, so we're trying to cut a little bit of that out. And the last two new things, because we were getting requested for it, like, why don't you guys sell this? We have phosphate pads. So this is a pad that's folded in half and removes phosphates from your aquariums. Not so much needed in planted tanks, only if you had like really bad algae, but I'm not sure that's the right way to combat that. Although I could absorb a little bit of algae or phosphate in there. You know, so not the worst for a goldfish tank. And then I've got ammonia pads, which, again, I'm not a big proponent of the ammonia pad because if you have ammonia, we should be changing water, we should be doing some things, but they can be useful for new people. They can be useful in an overstock pond situation. They can be useful when you're raising fry and you just can't set up more tanks, and no matter what you do, you're getting a little excess ammonia. Not a lot, but a little excess ammonia. It's helping you between water changes. It's kind of a thing you can have around, like, wow, there's ammonia in my water. Let's get the ammonia pad. I did a water change. Should help. But we wanted to flesh out, because people were asking. And it's not that, products like these, it's not that they don't have any use. It's that I don't want them to become a super crutch where it's like, oh yeah, I just run 40 ammonia pads. I don't change water or run a filter anymore. It's like, well, okay, let's not do that either. But yeah, but they're thick and they're actually surprisingly heavy with the amount of I guess chemical in it. And it's so all right, let me back up a couple of steps. Why does Corey even like these? They're cut to fit. They fit any filter, and in a pinch, you can use them. You can cut a long strip. You fold it out in half, right? Cut a long strip. You can wrap a sponge filter and put a rubber band around it. And so I've done that for with carbon. Like, we get emails sometimes like, oh, there's fleas in my place. Someone needs to run a flea bomb, or a painting, or staining the hardwood floors. Those are all good times to use carbon wrapped around a sponge filter. Yeah, so it's useful, and it fleshes out our line there. So we brought those in as well. And that's it. Didn't bring in a whole lot of new stuff, just targeted stuff that we thought, it takes a long time to develop some stuff. So, yeah. Austin says, what's the best way to raise severums? Are we talking like baby severums or just normal ones? But mostly clean water, good food, spirulina, brine shrimp's a great thing. Trying to think what else you could. I mean, I'm trying to think between baby fish or not baby fish. I got a good. My wife says, can you please talk about the fact that people have to buy the product before they can review it? Yes. You do have to buy the product before you can review it on our website, because I tried having it open for anyone, but one, there was some trolls, and two, it was just people spamming porn. So it made it a lot easier once, like, oh, you have actually bought the product. Okay, you can now leave a review type of deal. So, yeah. That's the way it's got to be, because we want to keep it legit. And, yeah, good call out from my wife. By the way, if you want to meet my wife, go to Aquashella or go to Aquatic Experience. She'll be at both, helping me keep the fort down. Any advice on getting zebra loaches to come out of hiding? I've had them for 10 days in a 20-gallon with 8 zebra danios. Plenty of hiding spots. Should I get more? Depends on how many zebra loaches you have. They are a pack animal. If you only got 3, they might be a little spooked. Otherwise, dim the lighting. A lot of times our LED lights are super duper bright, and like, I actually dim the lighting back here some more just for the camera, but now you can see a lot more reflections. So I still need to work on that, but I've been out of town. But subdue the lighting. See if you feed with the lights off, are they super active? Maybe get some floating plants. Sometimes that'll help you. Yeah. Oh, Brian thinks got a good idea. Some people will cut into little cubes and place in the bags when shipping fish. Keep ammonia down while in the bags. Yes, you can do that. In my opinion, we have a better product for doing that. It's more expensive, but we sell polyfilter, which is not to be confused with like a white pad. It is a white pad, but polyfilter has chemicals, and it can absorb lots of things, not just ammonia. And you can cut little cubes, and it could absorb iron. It could absorb all these things, right? But I could see how that would work. So my wife is chiming in again to let people know they will get an email about when it's time to leave a review. So yes, but when you get that email, please click on it and leave the reviews on the newer products especially. All right. I had a crushed coral in my substrate in preparation for cherry shrimp. Now I have hair algae issues, mostly in the substrate. What is the best way to combat it without removing the substrate? Gravel vac. So if you gravel vac and it tumbles it, and then the algae lands face down, it'll just die. Also, once you put the shrimp in there, they'll start eating on it. Yeah. Is the tubing the stretch type of silicone? I don't know how to quantify stretch type of silicone. It is a type of silicone, but I don't know if I can quantify stretch type. That just seems like an ambiguous term. If you're asking, does it go over everything? Yes, it totally does. Yeah. All right. People are asking how to leave feedback. That's good. Not even 10% of the people watching currently have liked this video. Well, maybe they just like listening. Well, you know, I've been having a lot of meetings with YouTube, a lot. At least once a week, once an hour, different people in the room, and we're learning, we're studying. They love the fact that I'm able to hold a live stream like this. We've got membership working. Like, that's not common outside of gaming and that kind of stuff. So we are the lab rat, right? And we're gonna get access to some new options. We get to play with stuff. Some stuff will be great. Some stuff will go away because maybe it doesn't work out. But the more progress we show, the more meetings we get with them. And with the meetings, I get to make suggestions. So the suggestion I really want is I go, well, what about at a certain level of memberships or something, can we get a chat room? What I really want is like a chat room that goes on for the members. So like you get in and then everyone can chat. You can chat back and forth. I can chat. I could schedule like, Fridays at 2 p.m. I always hang out for a couple hours, whatever that is. I just think like the live chat like we have, but members only, but then it's all the time and the messages stay there. So if someone asks at 4 o'clock in the morning, Hair Algae and crushed coral, maybe I chime in at 5 p.m. going at E-Littles, here's my suggestion, and then they could see that the next day. Like stuff like that I think could be super cool. So, why I was getting back to that. Yes. So we know on the live streams that 27%, so 27 out of 100 people are watching this on a big TV, and it's very hard to give the thumbs up button on a TV. You have to go find the remote, you have to navigate your way there. Some TVs don't even have that option. So, but if you can, if you're on a computer or you're on your phone right now and you can hit that thumbs up button, please do. And that's also because I was asking them, like, if all my stats are up and we're doing good, why are people not subscribing and all that? And we kind of looked into it, and it kind of came back to a lot of you guys are really regular viewers, but you're watching on TVs and devices that it's counterintuitive to subscribe, and so they basically say, ask them to subscribe, hit that notification bell, become members, do all that stuff, like keep interacting with us. And that's really all we can do, until they make a change, on like the app that runs on the TV or something. I don't know. I'm not privy to the changes that need to be made to make that easier. But as long as you guys are watching, that's what's important, and getting the information, that's important. Not so much did it tick up another one. That being said, it does help YouTube. I was telling people in the chat that we have enough members that last week they actually asked me a ton of questions about how did we get members, are they enjoying it, and then this week they followed up with some questions. And the questions they had for me this week was one that I can't answer yet. And they said, last week you said people were complaining that it wasn't available in all countries. Was there a country that stood out that we should focus on? And I said, I really wasn't paying attention to which country people were saying they couldn't sign up and become that wanted to the most. But I said I would ask you guys. So if you're watching this right now, after this goes live, because I won't be able to count them in the chat, but once it goes live, after we're done, in the comment section, if you would like to become a member and it says it's not accessible in your country, this is the best way I could run a little informal poll of, what country are you from? And then if like all of a sudden it's like, wow, 60% is from Peru, they would prioritize getting it rolled out to Peru for us. So that's kind of cool to be working with YouTube, and YouTube has been very fun to work with that give and take relationship. I give them information, they give me stuff to test, we get feedback, we get some things discounted, we get to try new things, some things work, some things don't. And I like being able to craft. I feel like I'm an employee of YouTube and I'm giving feedback like, this process not so good, like this we got to fix. Oh, that's working just fine. Stop worrying about that. That doesn't matter. So yeah. Do Peru locals think the changing climate has affected the fish population and river levels? Does human intervention worry them? So I didn't have any conversations on that level with locals, so I wouldn't want to speak for them. But you'll see some of this video. There's a part we went to, so we wanted to capture as much as we could. And there was a part we went to where we had to have bodyguards to go to this market and to go like deep into the market, behind the market, where basically the poorest people live. From my understanding, this may or may not be true, but what I was told, some of the lowest economic status people would live, and those were the people that would collect the fish, and then they would sell them to someone that would have a boat that could travel to an exporter and then resell them to them that would get sold to us. And from what you'll see is, at that level where you're just trying to survive, I don't think you're really thinking too far ahead. You're like living for that day. And what I mean by that is, one of these places, or like right on the water, is these floating houses. They're just tied with a piece of rope to like a log. And that house might be like this, where it's literally like at a 60-degree angle and people are living in there and that kind of stuff. And then there's like two wires, like imagine these raw wires that kind of just like do this big U shape into that house. Each one's got 110 power. The wrong people touch it, they're getting electrocuted. If it gets wet, and when the water comes back, it'll finally rise up. And I'm not sure, and this is me speaking from only what I've witnessed. For all I know, they're talking about that every night. But from what I could see, I don't think that was on their agenda. It was more like, how do we eat tomorrow? How are we going to fix the net? The net got caught up. The motor on a boat is broken. It seemed more like that. It was like the day-to-day, I guess, struggles, if you will, would be on the agenda. Not so much, what do we think about the other things going on? Now, maybe more so in town they're thinking about that a little bit. But yeah, it's hard to say when you don't speak a language and you have interpreters between you and that kind of stuff. And we're trying to get something done. We don't have a lot of time. So yeah, interesting though. And I do have I might put out a video about the Amazon fires and that kind of stuff, because I've got a perspective from being there. I've got some footage of stuff being on fire while I'm there and that kind of stuff. So, but I don't want to pretend like I know it all. I feel like I know 3% of the picture. But from someone that's never been over there, maybe we have 0% of the picture. So I don't want to pretend that I have 90% of the picture. Like, oh, I know what they're thinking. I can only know what I was thinking. I can only know what I observed, and what I can show you guys on video. So, yeah. Do you agree that a fish keeping degree could be possible for universities? Yes, Dr. Tim Miller Morgan in Oregon runs a degree program on ornamental fish. Even it's the only one I know of in America. There might be other ones outside of America. But I've strongly considered how could I move there and get that degree? Because I know there's a lot of stuff I want to learn about it in general. So, yeah. Would I eat aquarium fish? I mean, I wouldn't eat my own pets, but yes, we ate discus, we ate piranha, we had Texas shovelnose, we had arapima, we had, maybe that's it. We had Plecostomus. So, I have eaten stuff that are aquarium fish, but not from my own aquariums. I've been watching some of your old live streams, wondering what did you do with your Zoo Med low boy tanks? Can't find any videos on them. I gave them away. There should be a video where we gave away like a couple hundred tanks, or maybe 100 tanks. A local person actually came and picked up my whole fish room, and we redid a bunch of stuff. Jimmy's setting up an 80-gallon lowboy soon. One step above, are you someone who would be interested in sitting down with locals and asking about their lives, knowing how much they rely on them for your business? Let me analyze that to make sure I'm understanding it before I answer. Am I interested in sitting down with locals, asking about their lives? I understand that. Knowing how much you, so me, how much I rely on them for my business. Okay. I would. That sounds interesting. There's already a documentary that's been shot that does that, I think, pretty well. It hasn't been released to the public yet. I don't know when. We did put money towards it. We donated $2,500 towards the production of that film. It's a 90-minute film. It's awesome. I've watched and proofed the whole thing. I don't know when it's coming out, but the goal is to show all the process from collection all the way to selling in a store, that kind of stuff. And there's like 5 or 6 different languages that are being used, lots of subtitles, and a worldwide perspective. Yes, but I am interested in it. And so me personally, if we never sold another fish, we would still be in business. So like, I don't rely on them nearly as much now as I did maybe 4 years ago when it was only a fish store, right? That being said, I do have thoughts about their livelihood, the way we keep fish, what's an alternative for their life if they can't catch fish and sell it, what's an alternative for us. There's a lot of working parts. A lot of people don't think about moving fish from one continent to the other. Like sometimes, and I don't know the geographic regions off the top of my head, but we might save carbon footprint by bringing something in from Peru as opposed to Russia or something, depending on where it's going in the country and that kind of stuff. We might get a better product. We might get something that lives longer. We might get, I just don't want to like put out a whole video right now because I know my stance on it and I've talked about it before, but there's a video I want to make about it. Like the more that I go there myself, the more I have an opinion. My opinion is not right or wrong, but I have an opinion about it. And what do I think and what do I see that's going on and what do I think that would go on? I think for the most part, if we haven't been to Peru ourselves, we have no idea what it's like. And just judging from the people losing their minds on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and just throwing horrible insults at each other and stuff like that based on me eating some fish, like, oh, you ate fish, how could you? Meanwhile, I walk through a market and it's, oh, there's 1,000 catfish, which is no different than me walking into Safeway and going, oh, there's 1,000 different frozen fish that we would eat, just not aquarium fish. So there's a lot of stuff going on there that, a lot to think about. Is it better or worse for the environment if you catch a fish for your family right on there, you walk 10 feet, and that feeds your fish or feeds your family for a week, versus we buy a fish in the supermarket, it was flown across the world, and then we drive 30 miles home, and that only fed us for a night. There's a lot of stuff that goes into this. I don't have all the answers, but I do know that I think the more of us that start forming an opinion and start learning about it, there's so many people that say we should never buy wild caught fish. I think we have to. If we don't, there's bad consequences as well. I think finding sustainability in almost anything we do, and we don't always have the answer, but if we're working on sustainability, that's way better than not looking at the problem at all. So I would be interested in having some of those conversations, and you get some insight, especially when you talk to exporters and that kind of stuff, because they deal with a lot of locals. So instead of just like this one family's perspective, he might see that, well, you know, Japan stopped buying this fish, this whole community lost their jobs essentially, because that, you know, like discus come from like Santa Cruz area, right? If we stop buying discus, which discus are way less popular than they were 20 years ago, that affects that whole population, right? So they have to go catch different fish and do different things and have different careers. I have a 40 breeder. I was thinking of stocking it with neon tetras and shrimp. How many neons could I fit? Probably more than you're willing to buy. Like an R40 breeder, I think we ran at least 200 cardinal tetras, which cardinals are fairly similar to neons, but your bank account probably gives out at the 100 level, like, okay, I've got 100 neons, like that's enough. And you'll hit a point where, like, the difference between 100 neons and 150 neons, you don't visually see the difference, so you probably don't need the extra money being spent. Have I seen the longfin neon tetras? Is the longfin variations hurt the fish in the long run? I have seen them. I think they look very cool. I have no idea of their impact long term. So it might totally hinder them. It might totally not. I think it obviously could if you keep them with faster swimming fish that can get to the food before they could, but I'm not sure. All right. On my phone, I have to close the chat to like or sub. That's why I appreciate the friendly reminder. Yes, that is a downfall of the way the chat on a phone works. Oh man, my sinuses are just like dying right now. I apologize. All right. I'm going to check in real quick with something. If I can get there. There we go. I know Fish Lover's been trying to ask a question for a while. I found it. I'm moving to another apartment. I have a 10-gallon shrimp-only tank. It's finally took off, and I have over 100 shrimplets and don't want to lose them. How would I move the tank? I personally would drain it to about 2 inches of water. At that point, it should weigh about 20 pounds. If you want to be extra careful, you could then put that onto a piece of like plywood or wood, and then carry that, put it in the back of a van or the back of your car, drive it to the new location. I would then put it where it needs to go, and then I would slowly fill it up with water with the chlorinator in there. And I say slowly because I don't know the new water parameters, but in general, it shouldn't be that much different than buying them new at a store or something like that. Try to keep, if you have a sponge filter, lay it over so that it mostly stays wet. All your plants should be wet, and if you have plants that are kind of, let's say you have a nubius up on some wood or something, you can cover the entire top with a piece of saran wrap so it stays humid in there. And then if you ever had to slam on the brakes, if the water sloshed, that piece of saran wrap will keep that water from sloshing out as well. But anything under like a 29 and under, I'm a real big fan of just draining the water level real low, and then 1 or 2 people carefully carrying that and not doing a full breakdown. You'll keep pretty much all your biological cycles with plant roots and all that kind of stuff intact. And really, it's just like we're doing a larger water change. If you were very scared, you could, in a 10-gallon, drain the water into a 5-gallon bucket, snap down the top, take that with you, refill. It'd be a very, very small change between the two there, you know. So that's the way I would tackle it. Pretty easy. I try to make it simple and not have to do a lot of work, because if you're moving, you've already got everything you own boxed up and all that. Make the aquarium the easy part, so that way when you're done unboxing your dishes and your clothes and you're eating pizza, you know, off of like a chair in a cardboard box, you can at least watch your aquarium. That's the way I would tackle it. Why is my fish tank so barren? Is that a company tank? Nope, it's just my 800 gallon. It looks huge. Honestly, the reason it looks barren is I need more goldfish, but at this point, there's over $1,000 worth of goldfish in there, and it's huge, and it costs a lot of money. But I don't just want to buy like 100 random goldfish that I want to choose them, and I want, you know, personalities to develop and that kind of stuff. So, all right, sinuses, come on. Advice for a 5-inch male flowerhorn with a huge swollen tummy since we got him at 2 inches. Treated for parasites and worms, rub the tummy, Epsom salt, maybe big gut genes. Happy and normal aside from that. It could be like, what if it's, you know, like I know there's short body flowerhorns now. What if it's like one of those mutations that like this is different? If you've done all of that, like you've dewormed, you've tried a bunch of stuff, and it looks like it's thriving, it probably is. It's probably just its body type is going to be different, and you know, I wouldn't worry about it too much. I would look at maybe the food. Make sure you're not feeding like way too fatty foods all the time. Like if you were trying to grow its nuchal hump and you're using some of those flowerhorn foods that have a lot of fatty acids in them, that could be leading to maybe excess fat deposits on other parts of the body. So you could try a leaner diet and see if that has any effect on it. But you know, if it's happy and healthy, it probably is. All right. Yeah, get some soup for my sinuses. Definitely. Yeah, it's, you know, all I've eaten today so far, I had a half of a protein bar and half of a tuna fish sandwich from Subway. Had worked out in the morning, then had meetings all day till I got here. Then I did prep for the live stream. And I think my wife might be making me a cheeseburger on the barbecue for dinner or something like that. But yes, I've definitely been taking broth and soups and that kind of stuff to help alleviate this. Welcome back. Sorry you're sick. Use this way to get some Taco Bell to get rid of... Oh, before they get rid of half their menu. I did read they were getting rid of like 9 items or something like that. I know that you discuss guppies for profit a ton, but I do not remember hearing you discuss endlers for profit. Would you mind sharing why? Well, at the time, so I think I filmed that in like 2016, there wasn't as many endler types. That being said, with endlers, a lot of times people only want one type of endler. You know, they're like, oh, I just want the scarlet reds, or I just want the greens, or I just want this. Or guppies, they tend to collect all the colors. And when I say people, I mean people that walk into a store that might have an aquarium, right? So there is money to be made on breeding these lines of guppies for sure, but I still don't think they're as lucrative as some of the guppy strains and some of the like generic fancy guppies. So what I do like about the endlers is they are a hardier fish. They have a wider tolerance of pH and hardness and that kind of stuff. So they're a better beginner fish, and they're super easy to raise up and cultivate. Like I've got a billion of them living with my turtles. They can't eat them fast enough. And so you might also, like a lot of times a normal endler gets confused with a feeder guppy in the pet store. And so people don't pay a lot for them. So that's just the only reason why I don't, I guess, go heavy on that. But you could definitely incorporate it into some of your plan to recoup some of that money spent on your hobby. Ben Ochar with the $2 super chat. Met you at Coast. That was fun. Let's see. Salt cures all? Almost. That's right. That's from my talk at Coast. I talked a lot about salt. Salt is crazy good. What personally made you interested in going to Peru? On that, am I interested in traveling to Asia to catch fish and see the region's process? So there are definitely places I want to go. I definitely want to hit Thailand. I definitely want to go to Singapore. I'm going to Shanghai, which will be a different fish market. I want to visit some of the Chinese hillstream locations, not on this trip. But seeing fish in the wild is super interesting. And what made me want to go to Peru was when I was a hobbyist, so let's say like 10 years ago, it was the only thing I ever heard about of a trip you could do as a hobbyist. So it's like, oh, there's companies that will take you out and catch fish. I really, really want to learn how to scuba dive and go film and look at Lake Malawi fish and that kind of stuff too. I basically want to go anywhere that seems interesting to myself and my wife or YouTube. I want to go do it, but I also want to do it sustainably. Costs a lot of money to be doing that, a lot of time and resources. Yeah, so I don't know how much traveling I'm doing next year. I really want to breed fish. I miss breeding fish, so I'm trying to lay off the travel, breed for a year, and then maybe I'll be like, oh, now I should get back and actually travel instead of breeding fish. So, you know, we'll take it one location at a time, basically. I've heard my dogs. Oh, great. My wife brought me some broth.
She should be able to drink it right away. Just drink
Thank
a
you.
little bit.
Thank you.
Come on, babies.
All right. Now that's service right there. Philip, a new member. Thank you very much, Philip. And then Hank with a currency that I have never seen before. That must be Super Chats got rolled out into new places. I have no idea what COP 10,000 of them is. For all I mean, it kind of looks like $5, but I have no idea. So someone might know what that is. Ooh, still hot. But oh, it is already better. Did I ever consider koi for the 800 gallon? Yes. I definitely have considered koi for the 800 gallon. I thought it would look super cool. And I was thinking, like, what if I took koi out of my temporary pond, put them in the 800 gallon, let them be there for a year or two, grow up, get bigger, put them out into the pond after we built it. I definitely considered that. I just never ended up making that move. But I do like seeing koi in aquariums. Oh, Colombian pesos. Okay. $2.91. Awesome. I wish I drank coffee or tea or something and make this easier, but I don't. I've got a bumper crop of golden mystery snails. I have 2 local fish stores that have taken a few. Any ideas what to do with the other 30 snails? Snails can ship okay. You know, if you've run out of fish stores, look for hobbyists. If you've run out of hobbyists and you're willing to, they're really, really, really good food for turtles. You know, I hate to say that because some people go, how dare you, I raise those, I would never do that. And some people go, oh, I just need to find them somewhere, and like, oh, that'd be like nature eating those. Like, that makes some sense. But really, you're finding someone to take them or finding something that wants to eat them. Big pufferfish would do it too. But I totally get it if you're like, no, I'm looking for homes for them, not meals for them. So. All right. Katapa leaf tea. Yeah. What is it that everyone always threatens to drink? There's like cocaine leaf tea in Peru and stuff. I've never had or anything like that, but they always, you know, it is one of those things, like if you get crazy sick, they're like, you could do that. It makes you feel better, but that's a little too much for me. My Cory cat is having white around the mouth, and I don't know what it is. He keeps spazzing around the tank. Any ideas? Look up Colmenares, which is it's a mouth infection. Erythromycin will typically help with that. A little bit of Icex can help with that. Little bits of salt can help with that. But it'll start affecting the way they can eat. And yeah, but Colmenares is the mouth infection you're looking for. Once you kind of get to some pages that'll help you with that. Relatively easy to knock that out, not too hard. Holo Spice, that's some thick goldfish. I concur. Yep. There's meds in the water right now. I'm deworming them currently with General Cure, which I'll have to do again in 2 or 3 weeks, but I don't have any more goldfish in quarantine, so I thought let's start the process and everything else can get quarantined outside the 800. There's enough in there to keep it visually interesting for me now. All right. Whatever happened to the old Vortex diatom filter? I had one years ago and loved it. Filters out ick, yep. Just got back to the hobby, and they're no longer popular. Yes, they are definitely no longer popular. The micron level is down to 5. It could take out green water. It could take out ick. They, I don't know. They just fell out of favor with polishing water. There used to be a cool hang-on back. I would sell those. Tetra used to make them. They still exist technically. Vortex, I think like Bulk Reef Supply or something like that might still sell them, or Marine Depot, one of those two. But they need to be updated with technology. That's what it really needs. Like, they have the ability now to like text your phone when they get clogged up and everything. So you're like, oh yeah, time to go take it down. But yeah, it's like it's 1978 technology and it's never been updated. Let's see. I'd like to chat with you when I return to Canada on the 18th. Perhaps Aquashella? Definitely. If you want to come to Aquashella, I'll be chatting with lots of people. So there's usually a line. I will chat as much as I can with you there. And then my wife has already been mentioning she's going to look to see are there close places to eat around the convention. And then we usually do anyone that wants to go and buy their own dinner. We're all going here. You're welcome to sit at my table, or I can make the rounds, or a lot of times you just find out like, oh wow, sitting with 5 other fish nerds is just as awesome anyway. So it's kind of a good time. And I try not to promise like specific amounts of time or anything because one, I don't want to not deliver, and two, if like let's say the months leading up to it I've promised myself to 35 people and then realize I've worked myself into a jam, that's not good either. The next fish room video, we're probably a couple weeks away from the fish room video just because, you know, part of the hardest part being gone, I could only film where I was, and that was Peru. Then I got back and got super sick. I haven't been doing anything besides just throwing a bit of food in there and looking at fish. But so I've been collecting some parts, but like I ordered some dehumidifiers for the fish room because now that I started filling some of those ponds up with water, there's more humidity, and I needed to start installing some of the stuff. But what I don't want is I don't want to relapse. Like, it's enough right now just to get through the day and be at a computer and do my day-to-day tasks. If I start adding physical labor and that kind of stuff onto it, I don't want to, you know, today was the first day I've worked out, second day I've worked out since I was at Peru, and the first day was really rough. That was last week. I had to use the bathroom several times because it was still Peruvian bug had me. And then I got really sick. I actually skipped a flight to Florida to meet with someone. Yes, that would have been this week. Is that right? I don't know what day it is anymore. Today's Wednesday. Yeah. No, that was last week? I don't know. Must have been last week. Yeah, because I was in between. So I flew out the weekend to go speak at Coast, but in between that I had another trip. I actually skipped that. My wife gave me the option of you can stay home or you can go to the hospital, but you can't go to Florida. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to Florida then. So that just means that I didn't have a lot of time to film because I was busy having a fever. But I plan to. I want to get back into the fish room and all that kind of stuff. So it's on the to-do list for sure. All right. Wondering other options for marketing them for sale. Oh, I missed another. Along the lines of things that eat mystery snails, what will eat those crayfish you mentioned earlier? I have a whole bunch of those self-cloning crayfish babies, not looking to buy fish, but wondering other options to market them for sale. I would just market them towards feeders for puffers, or if they're small, other big predator fish, turtles. A good source of calcium for turtles as well. I'm not enough into reptiles to know if there's other predatory reptiles besides turtles that would be into that. I mean, I'm sure there are, but I have no idea what they would be. So you could look into that maybe. Trying to stock my 20 long. I have a flagfish right now and want to get bluefin, killifish, and swamp darters. Will the flagfish bully the others? It might. It's like a semi-aggressive fish, but it's like a 50-50 chance no matter what you do with those flagfish. I've had plenty of them never touch anything, and I've had some of them be real not nice fish. Have I ever tried visiting the Philippines? No, but I want to. I do want to go there. There's lots of fish I want to see. Philip's asking, any other tips? Shorter light cycle, 8% water change before. I have to remember what Philip's ask was about. Did he ask? He became a new member, but there's got to be a message. Part of when I get sick, my brain starts forgetting conversations. Like, oh yeah, let me follow back up on that. Talking about filtration. I guess I'm just too far behind on that conversation to be helpful, unfortunately. Hopefully not too personal, but when are you 100% at 100%? How many hours a day do you think you're working? So the honest average is I typically work, well, no, it depends on what you consider work. Before I went to Peru, I considered working out at the gym to be work because I was prepping for Peru. Now that it is, I find that to be an electoral activity as I'm electing to do that. Maybe my work doesn't start that early, but typically I wake up at 9 a.m. and I go to bed between midnight and 3 a.m. every day. And so you're going to go, okay, that's X amount of hours, right? That's 18 hours if I go to bed at 3 a.m. But my wife can attest to this. All I do is work. Lately, I've been playing a little bit of Classic WoW, so that's been a great reprieve. But for the most part, I spend my time working in this idealistic thought that if I work ridiculously hard while YouTube is being favorable and you guys still like to listen to me and all that, that one day I won't have to work. And when I don't have to work, that truly frees you up and to do whatever you want. And because I worked so hard for many years to get to where we are now, that allows me to build products, choose not to work with people, and do things that are financially bad decisions, but do what I want to do. Like financially, for a lot of companies, it doesn't make sense to pay that much. Like we put $1,000 towards people's medical, which is over 100%. So if you have a spouse, it pays 100% medical for you and your spouse and part of your kids. But because we're not purely profit driven, we have a goal in mind, and that is to like leave an impact on the hobby, make things a little bit better. Oh, I just realized this aquarium co-op mug. And do that kind of stuff. It allows us to make decisions that aren't bound by money. So that's why I try and work pretty hard. And the goal is to provide a life for my family, and I have employees that are family members, and I have people I care about, and employees. They say if you're doing it right, you work for your employees, and I don't know. I can honestly say I work for them, but they are definitely in the forefront of my mind when it comes to looking at money. Can we make more money so I can pay my employees more money? Can I make their lives easier? Can I make their lives better? And we're getting, without sitting down and talking to all my employees right now, but I feel like we are way better this year than we were last year in terms of getting to that sweet spot of like, yeah, this is actually right where we need to be. So, but I also go through phases where it seems like a lot of work, and then there's phases where it seems like a lot of fun. Like a convention like Aquashella and Aquatic Experience, they're a lot of work, a lot of pre-planning, a lot of talking to a lot of you guys, which is fun, but on hour 10, your voice is giving out, your legs hurt, and the second day is even more brutal. So it's not super easy, but it's also better than digging a ditch, right? So, and then things like bringing out new products, that's very fun for me, and doing the marketing on them. And I enjoy doing the live streams, and I really enjoy doing live streams where I don't talk about fish, because it's kind of like hanging out with friends. LG3 Nation, been around for a long time. Sorry for the illness. Hope you feel better. Thank you. Joe says, I enjoy all you do. I just got an order in. The moss balls are yellow and light green. Will they color up, or did the Arizona heat get them? Well, the light green I'm not worried about. The yellow, though, that might not come back. yeah, I don't know how hot it is in Arizona right now. Give it some time. If they color back up, great. If they don't, oh, I gotta sneeze. You can message us and we'll see what we can do. Yeah, it's in those really hot states, it can be real difficult because different plants react differently. So it's not even like maybe moss balls don't like it, but then all these other plants do fine. Because plants are coming in from all around the world, they have different things, just like fish. What server am I playing WoW on? I'm not releasing that info just because I do, like, the WoW outlet, if you will, is purely to get me away from working. And, you know, I definitely have been playing some WoW, but not a ton. I mean, I think I played like a couple days, pretty solid, honestly. But other than that, like today, and this is, in my opinion, this is how you know if you're addicted to something or not. Like, it's going to be 7 o'clock today. Haven't done a single thing with WoW all day. And there's a chance I might not play it all today. I know I've got a ton tomorrow. I might not play it all tomorrow. But I still am going, ooh, maybe sometime this weekend I could not work and just play some video games and relax a little bit. You know, but work always has to come first because I know people are relying, like you guys are relying on me. I'm relying on me. There's, you know, employees. My main in WoW, I'm playing a feral druid because I like to prove everyone wrong. I was a co-owner for a co-op for almost 10 years, Alvarado Street Bakery. One advice, don't let the co-op get too big or it will get political. The reason why I sold my share and left. Yes, Joe. Definitely, I do think about that a lot. Is like, as we get bigger, things get harder. Luckily for us, we're not a true co-op, so there's only me as the owner and a silent partner. Now, you know, obviously my wife, because we're married, you know, she's an owner as well and that kind of stuff. But it does keep business is easier when there's one head at the top and what they say goes, whether it's right or wrong. There's not fighting about how do you get to the decision. The decision is made, and then you get the result of right or wrong. So that does make it easier for us to make moves. But you know, it also sucks when you make the wrong move, and then I'm the one that made the call. So it's just I know, oh, that's all on me. There's no blaming anyone else. I made that call. All right. Yana. Hey Corey, sorry I'm late. Besides where you've already been, where else would you like to collect wild fish? Any specific fish you'd like to collect? I'd really like to collect some puffers in Thailand. I don't know why. I mean, collecting puffers just sounds awesome, and I think that's why. Trying to think. For me, it's always, I want to collect something I want to bring back and actually keep, and I mean, but I think I could collect some African cichlids. I'd keep those too. That sounds fun. It's not even so much super rare stuff. I just want the attachment to it of like, oh, I collected that. I'm not gonna get rid of it now. And I don't want to ruin the videos because I don't want to tell you what fish I collected, but I anticipate keeping them for a long time because I brought them out of the wild and I should have had a good excuse to do that if I was going to do that. All right. Yeah, man, fair enough. I just have been trying to get a level and a half a day if I get a chance. Play Feral as well and can't wait for PvP. Yeah, I'm playing, so like the other partner of Aquarium Co-op is playing a little bit as well, and he doesn't have a lot of time. He's got kids at home and that type of thing, and we have an employee playing, and we're all just like there's people like in our little group that kind of are playing and like they're almost like trying to organize like we should play this day, and I just know that it won't work. Like I need it to be completely passive, could play or not play at any point because there's just, you know, I got work to do. I got people to see. I got events to go to. And it's got to be, I have to be that super, super casual person or I need to be nothing. I can't be, you know, a person that plays a lot. So Melifix is basically Neosporin for your fish. I concur. That is, yes. Welcome, Connor. Ooh, are you a magical number? And by magical number, I mean we get another emoji here soon. We need 4 more members. At 4 more members, we unlock another emoji. Thanks for the answer. It's 110 some days. Woof, yeah, Arizona, brutal. But yes, we'll see what we can do. And people always ask, like, what's your official, our official policy? And the policies are weird, right? So, like, our official policy is, it's our job to get that plant to you alive. Now, it's light green and a little bit of yellow. That's really hard to know, is that plant alive or not? We'll know a lot more in like a week and a half, but there's always like, sometimes people will buy those and then put them in their axolotl tank with no light, and it's like, well, that thing was going to die anyway. So we pretty much, we eat a lot of things, and we just try to bring it with like the level-headed response. Like, okay, they bought stuff from us. There's only this one's having a problem. Let's just make that right. We'll analyze a little more, write that down. Let's look at stats and be like, yeah, we can't be selling mothballs to Arizona in the summer. Like, that's a train wreck. But we just do what we can. And anyone that, for the most part, anyone that remains civil with us, will provide a picture or two and talk through customer service a little bit. We'll make it right. It's the people that start out on the wrong foot or refuse. You know, there's people that like, my light doesn't work. And we're like, oh, could you like take a picture or a video or anything to prove it doesn't No. It's like, well, if you can't do anything to prove it doesn't work, how do we know that it doesn't work? You know? And so they put us in a weird spot. But if you like go through any of these steps, we can go, okay. Because otherwise, what stops me from just telling Fluval, by the way, you have 10,000 lights that don't work. Give me 10,000 lights. Like, we have to prove to Fluval too. And we have the same thing with our vendors and that kind of stuff like that. We don't really get that for plants, but, you know, just different products, you know, we have to look at, oh, it turns out 1% have a problem or none do or whatever. So, can Coolie Loaches live on Eco Complete? Yeah, definitely. Noah Hess coming in. 3 more. Hey, Corey, I was at your talk in Costa Mesa. Love the info. I'm wondering if I send an email, would you share the PowerPoint? I'd love to have it as a reference. Yes, Connor. So here's what you need to do, Connor, because I don't know the answer. Send an email. Candy or my wife or someone will forward that on to me, and then expect a response in like 2 weeks. And the reason being is I want to think about that. I want to go, how could I turn that into a PDF? How could I turn it into something that was usable by a lot of people and not just a one of, right? I want to make sure, because all you would get was the pictures, and they don't even say what illness is on there. So I would need to put some time in and go, okay, well, here's like maybe, you know, at least the name of the disease, the picture, and what I recommend to cure in a quick synopsis or something. I am considering having, like, the person that writes blog articles for us turn that into a blog post, and maybe then you'd have forever information. So I don't know the right delivery method yet, because I think just the slides might not be super helpful, but we'll work on it. Ooh, Lucky Pete and Mauricio Salinas? Mauricio Salinas. There we go. My brain. I mean, I think I'm saying it right. It just sounds cool now. Mauricio. I'd rock that name. New sponge filters look like they would provide more flow if I use a piece of airline to connect the top piece to the bottom when not using an air stone. Yes, technically that would be true. The more travel time you have, the more lift you would get. That being said, in that scenario, you can't run as much air through it, and you would also get more lift if you actually just had longer tube. So there's a bunch of ways you could modify that to further increase it if you actually thought you needed that. What happened to the Murphy cam? I have no idea. Is there something actually wrong with the Murphy cam? Let me see. Live puffer camera. No, Murphy cam's live right now. So, yeah. Most likely there's something going on with your device, or your browser or something like that. But from right now, Murphy is live on my screen as I talk to you right here. Maybe offer an ebook or just publish one. I've thought about that too. Like, you know, how do I distribute content in a good way that's easily accessible? Yeah. How long for pregnant guppies to give birth? Averages 28 to 35 days, somewhere in there, depending on when they got pregnant. Jacob Budzinski and Sean Conane? That might have done it. We might have done it, people. We have done it. All right. So now, think about it for like, we've got 3 minutes till it's 7 o'clock. Put your brain on it, right? What would be a cool meme or emoji or something like that you think you want, right? So you can take a look at them that you got there, and you can go, wait a sec, I want to see, and then we'll see what we can do. Because it can be hard to think of good ones. I've got a couple we're going to implement. But I'm always looking for more good ideas. So I'm thinking of adding an air stone in my daughter's 5.5 gallon. I wouldn't want the airflow to be intense. At which point would minimal trickle air cease to be beneficial? It wouldn't. That's a very efficient way to do it. You could have it be very, very low, and it will add quite a bit of oxygen. So, Corey rocking the pronunciation of an Irish surname. Good. I assume, and I have no idea, I assume I butcher 700 names and words every live stream. And I just don't let it derail me. Like, I just know I am not a wizard when it comes to doing this. And so focus on the things I might be okay at and just move on from the things that I am not good at and wear my faults on my sleeve. I just ordered a few things from your store the other day, but more importantly, thank you for all that you do for us, fish enthusiasts. Well, thank you. I'm always a little worried when I read that because, you know, I'm always like, I just ordered stuff from your store. Now I'm pissed. Like, I guess I think the fear in me is good. I always fear that someone's going to get a bad experience, and that's what keeps me honest, I think. And not that I'm dishonest, but like, if I just think like we're the best, right? Oh, we never make a mistake. Then that's a bad, like, that probably devolves into a business that would like not care anymore. So I'm always just terrified of like, let's look at the Google reviews, let's look at the Yelp reviews, let's look at the, you know, the reviews on products. And like, I feel great when like, whew, everyone still thinks we're okay today. You know, because I don't have to write emails like, oh, geez, we failed you, what can we do, blah, blah. It just feels good when you're like, hey, one more day, internet likes us, doing something right. Oh, the Turtle Girl says we need a turtle emoji. It's not bad. Emoji of Dean, Corpsey emoji, Doricula emoji. Okay, those are some decent ones. Mandarin fish, Zebra Pleco, Puffer steal your face, Grumpy Betta. Ooh, that, I wonder how we could make, like, instead of Grumpy Cat, it's Grumpy Betta. What's my favorite Taco Bell menu item? I think if I'm a rich man, Nathan Kodas, I think it's a Mexican pizza. I feel like it's the worst food to dollar ratio on that menu because they're like $1 billion, but you get a Mexican pizza with some creamy jalapeno sauce on it. Whew. Which they upcharge, by the way. It's like 59 cents for creamy jalapeno sauce, but it's good. It's real good. I do want to find a good troll meme, like an actual, like, looks like a dungeon troll. I just haven't found it yet. Ooh, a canister emoji? Ooh, what if it was a canister with like a red X through it? That's pretty good. I like that. Hopefully Jimmy's listening to all this right now and just writing them down. Like, oh, here's ideas for days. Corridor emoji. We're limited something a little bit by the size, like, just because they have to be so small. We definitely have tried a bunch where, like, that does not look like what it was meant to look like. That just looks like a blob. Like, that ain't gonna work. My goldfish just pooped? I don't believe it. Not on my watch. Where do you find Murphy Cam? You go to the website, and you go to info, and then there's live puffer cam. And you'll see it right there. Oh, is there someone in the way watching Murphy. Oh, not right now, but yeah. All right, it is 7:01. I think it's time to wrap it up. But thank you for the new members. The last one I don't think I called out was Fish Guy. Thank you very much. Some bubble emoji. Okay. Yep. Yeah. Oh, we don't have an aquarium plant yet either. Flue ball. So the flue ball tripping emoji. I've totally thought about that. I just don't know how to express that in little graphic. I have no idea. Like I wanted to like. I was honestly thinking about that before I went live. I was like, what if it was like a guy that looks like he's wearing a corporate suit and then he was like tripping or something. I don't know how I could possibly convey flue balls tripping in an emoji yet, but taco hat emoji could do that. Yep. Do customers know they're on live camera when they're looking at Murphy? Yeah. Yep. They do. All right. It's interesting how much more small business care about reviews than large corporations. I'm not sure that we care more. I feel like it's more controllable. So what I mean by that is, like, let's say on average we get, I don't know what it is, let's say it's 3 bad reviews a week. I can spend the time and like write an email and figure out like what went wrong and ask the team and do all that. It's manageable. But if you're Coca-Cola and it was 3,000 bad reviews a week, you might not have the manpower to track it down, and therefore you don't have actionable insights. So I don't know if it's a caring thing or can we even do this thing? I mean, I'm sure there's companies that don't care, but there's got to be some that care a lot, but they've scaled out of a way in which they can actually have meaningful interaction. And also, I definitely notice. How do I say it? Like, the bigger we get on YouTube and the more products we have, the more corporate we're treated. Just like, out of 1,000 interactions, at the beginning, all 1,000 people would know like we're a super tiny thing. And now as we get bigger, people try like more shenanigans and that kind of stuff. Where it's just like, we're still just people though. Like, we're not just some giant corporation that like, can eat massive losses and stuff. Like, yeah. So, but I could see how that might scale like in 5 years. I guess in my mind, I'm thinking Bulk Reef Supply is a company that is way, 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 way bigger than we are and maybe might ever be, right? And they might get a lot more of that pushback because they have giant warehouses and they're like more faceless. Like, even though they're on YouTube, they're just not as connected as I think I am right now with you guys. But, it's hard to say because you can never know until you're there. And I do a lot of that learning of like, I leave it open of like, I think I know what's going to go on. But when I get there, it might be a way different story than I thought. So, all right, our balloon mollies, a seasonal fish. They were my first fish, and I love them, and I want more, but they're so hard to find. Any resources? They should be around. They're not seasonal from what I know. There's definitely been some rough weather, but I don't think they should be tough to find. Like, I bet if I looked at my wholesale list, they'd relatively be available for purchase right now. You can check, like PetSmarts and Petco's. They should carry them most of the time, but that being said, I don't really like track that, so I couldn't tell you like, oh yeah, it turns out these 2 months or something. Oh, I realize I've missed one, and I must get it. Grant Cook says, tips on treating angelfish with stress ick. Move to quarantine. You've got salt and ick X recommendation. Also, what's one of your favorite foreign foods you tried in Peru? I really fell in love with drinkable yogurt. It's really good. So I've been having a lot of yogurt now that I've been back. As far as stress ick, moving into quarantine, feeding it well, and just keeping stress low. So I'd say like a little bit of salt, but not necessarily the meds. Just let it be and realize it takes a long time. So what I mean by that is, if you have a really stressful job and you take a 1-week vacation, you don't instantly go back to work and be like, well, no stress in my life anymore. You go back, and then after a couple weeks, you're like, oh, it's stressful still, right? So you might need a sabbatical on that angelfish to read, like, okay, I've got a new perspective on life. I'm coming back into this new community tank. Maybe I don't have to be the tank boss. I could just be, cohabitating and not stress myself out. So it can take a long time to rehabilitate a fish like that. And it's not just a week or something. Like we think about it in our minds that way of an illness. So, all right, I'm going to rest my voice before I completely lose it and get some dinner. And I appreciate all you guys. Thank you to all the new members. That's a new emoji. We'll get some of those in action. And yeah, we'll see you next Wednesday. So, yes, drinkable yogurt. I had it at the hotel. I mean, well, okay. So of Peruvian food, Arapima is ridiculously good. Real good. Texas shovel nose, really good. Or not Texas shovel, tiger shovel nose. My brain doesn't work. Tiger shovel nose, really good. And then plantain chips are good. I had some of those. There was something else though that I had that I was like, yep, that's awesome. But the yogurt, man, after you gotta take stuff that nukes your stomach, yeah. Scarlet Badass, the badass emoji. See what we can do. All right, 2 hours done. We'll see you guys next week. I don't know what the topic is yet. I'm gonna put my Brian on it, figure something out. But do me a favor, hit the like on the way out. Yeah, share this with your grandma. We'll see you next stream. Get here an hour early. We always hang out and chat. But it's been a good time. See you later.